guys, welcome back to Pack Talk with me, your host, Pete Vodden. I'm here today with one of my favorite people on the planet, Miss Carrie Richards, Mrs. Carrie Richards. And Carrie has been on the podcast before. You'll look at that one.
Oh, yeah. Remember. Okay, sorry.
Carrie's been on the podcast before. She owns Richards Regenerative Farm and in Northern California, right?
Correct.
In a town called
Oregon House, California. No one's heard of it. It's okay.
Small little town. And, you know, we've talked before about the importance of regenerative farming and the importance of quality products, and also the responsibility that I feel and that I think we should all feel about where we get our food from and what we should be feeding our kids and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna dig deep into that, but we're also gonna have a bit of a catch up and talk about everything that's happened, because for both of us, our life has been crazy in the last 3 years. We've both been through a lot of changes, so we want to talk about that. But firstly, Carrie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming down. What brings you to LA?
I'm actually down here for a girls' weekend,
awesome.
But so when I came here 3 years ago, we were doing a lot of promotions down in LA.
Right.
So I was coming down quite a bit. And I knew we hadn't caught up in a while, and I follow you on Instagram and we chat all the time. So I just wanted to do a catch up with you.
Yeah, and it's been super fun, because if you follow Richards, obviously you've been in a lot of the supermarkets now, like the Bristol Farms down here. You've been in, you were in the Lassens for a while.
I was in Lassens, Lazy Acres, and then that's actually kind of like we can start there of like where we were last time we talked, and then
because last time Carrie was here, you were doing something at Lassens at the street. Distribution had just started in there.
Yep.
And then that's led to some problems, right? Just with like
we'll call them issues
with, you know, meat production is one thing, like growing cows and farming is one thing, but then the delivery of the product to the supermarket, how many hands it goes through to get from the farm is a whole other thing. So let's start there. Like, what were the issues?
Yeah. So back in 21, I think is when I was here last.
Yeah.
We were running all of our own operation, meaning we were managing all of our warehouses. We were in 4 different distributors. So Tony's, U.S. Foods, all sorts of things. We had our hands in a million different things. We were making bone broth. We were selling online. We were in Lassens and Bristol Farms, all over the place. It was not sustainable, which we, as business owners, we all know, like sometimes you need to focus on your strengths. And our strengths were raising healthy, regenerative cattle. And we were overdoing it. We were trying to be the online sales meat in a box people. We were trying to be in every store with the CPG packaging. We were trying to distribute to all the restaurants. We were trying to be in butcher shops. These are all different avenues of meat production, which feel like they're the same, but they're all very different skills. And so we had to dial it back. What we did is we went from a operating it all ourselves model to a distributor model. So we now exclusively sell through a company called Creamco Meats. They're based in the Bay Area, and they're lovely. We've worked with them for years, but we switched to this distributor only model because we really needed to dial our business back and start building from the ground up.
And that's how you get it from your farm to, if I buy it online, that's how I get it.
Yeah. So they do everything for us. They do steak cutting, they do grinding. And then something that we developed with them about the same time frame is we started getting into the school districts. So collectively with Creamco, California Association of Family Farms, like a whole group of nonprofits and CAF, like CDFA, a large group of us came together right around the time of the pandemic and started this regenerative meat into schools program. It's called Beef to Institution.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we started with one school district, Vacaville School District, and they are amazing. And he was our cheerleader, basically. And so we grew it. And as of last year, we were in 41 school districts from Northern California to Southern California. And it's all distributed through Creamco Meats.
This is amazing. This is something that I've talked about before, like the frustration you have as a parent when your kids are just getting fed shit at school, like stuff that is not good for them, stuff that does all kinds of things to their energy, to their emotions. You know, my kid, you know, was getting served goldfish at school. I mean, all these things you hear about. It's just like, you know, people complain about kids' attention spans and their attitude and their energy in class. It's like, if you feed them full of junk at that age, you're going to get bad behavior. you got to feed them good, healthy foods, nutrient dense foods. So the fact that you're bringing that food into the school system is awesome.
It's only one step though. That's the hard part, is what we realized is all these school districts, not all of them, but almost all of them, they have contracts with big distributors. Not my distributor, that's a little distributor. They have them with the big guys, and the big guys make these rules like, well, you can only buy 1% or 10% outside of our scope. If we can't find it, then you can't have it, except for this like 10% of your sales you can buy outside of this scope. So they get,
or what? They won't deliver, or what?
They're just like, well, we have something similar with the same attributes. And so they, you know, these distributors claim that they have everything everybody needs, which for the most part, if you're just checking off boxes, then yes, they do. But if you want to buy locally, they make it a little difficult, to say the least. So a lot of what we did is we hosted events at our ranch with people that were already buying from us, from our program, with people that were interested. And basically we talked it out with like some nonprofit groups that we've worked with for a long time that are like, this is how you do it. This is how you fill out the paperwork. This is who I work with. And so it was like people already in the action of buying locally, teaching others how to do it. So it was a really cool thing.
Very cool.
It's been going now with the USDA, like with things getting budgets being cut. In California, the school meals for all, I believe, is still going, but the buying local USDA supplementation, I think, is being cut or is on the chopping block. So that is worrisome. But part of what it is like, there's also a anti-meat agenda in schools. And it's really hard when you're raising meat the way that you feel very proud of and you know is healthier. And then people are saying, but meat is bad. And so, and that message is so loud.
Yeah.
It's a loud message that we have been battling since the beginning.
Yeah.
And my kids come home and they're like, Mom, the food. And then now they have our burgers. It took me 7 years to get our burgers into our school district. They serve it once a week, every other week.
Oh my God.
Because they're like, it's too expensive. And it's like, okay, are we going to pay the money now on the meat? Or are we going to pay it later with the behavioral problems and the health issues? It's like, no one wants to talk about that. And so the whole school thing has been very eye-opening, very inspiring because of the amazing school chefs we work with, like in Truckee and Nevada City. Like there's some down in Vacaville, there's some amazing people that are making amazing change. But there's so many people that are like, change is too hard, and they just want to reheat and serve. And it's hard because you're like, these are our kids.
These are our kids.
This is a big deal.
Where do you think the resistance comes from? Like, what is the...
It's a lot because of the way the system's set up, because they have these big contracts through Cisco and all the big distributors. It's so easy for them to do it the way they've been doing it. There's no more kitchens in the schools. Very few schools have kitchens.
How do they make food?
They do like reheats. They get these like steamers and they reheat things, and everything's in we call it sweaty pizza. Have your kids ever talked about that?
No.
Yeah. So my kids are like, oh, we got sweaty pizza today, or a sweaty chicken sandwich, because it's in like plastic and they heat it in the plastic. Like, don't we know that that's not good?
So when you get your burgers in there, how are they cooking those burgers?
So now our school district got funding for kitchens. And so they're not big kitchens. They're still a main kitchen, and they bring it like semi-prepped, and then it's called a finishing kitchen. Why couldn't they build a real kitchen? I don't know. I went to the meetings. There was a lot of paperwork. We're getting there.
They just can't get the permits in California to open a kitchen. That's the problem. Trust me. I had no idea, because when I was growing up, like there was kitchens. Like you'd go to the school like dinner hall, and there would be all the people back there like cooking all the foods, and and it wasn't like the best food in the world, but it was real food, and they were cooking it. It wasn't. It's
the whole bigger, stronger, faster American way.
Right.
More efficient, to the detriment of health. And it's kind of the same deal.
Specifically kids health, which is just wild.
It is wild. So we have built this amazing program with our partner and with all of our school food partners up and down the state. But there's like hundreds of school districts, and we're in like 40 of them, or maybe even 50 by now. And then everyone's worried about the budget cuts. So anyway, so we put a lot of eggs in that basket. We're selling like full loads of animals from our ranch and our partner ranches up and down the state to our distributor, and then they are helping us distribute. So our main customer we have right now is Sprouts. So we are in all the Sprouts markets in the frozen grab and go section. We have our ribeyes, New York's top sirloin, and grinds in Sprouts Market. And so they help us do that. And they also sell to some, smash burger places. I think Gold Burger down here gets our meat and a few others. And then we also have an online direct to consumer through Delivered Cold.
So if you go to Sprouts, guys, I know a lot of you guys out there do go to Sprouts. Look out, Richard's Regenerative Beef. Get it. Yeah. It's awesome. And yeah, you can get it through because I bought online from the what are they called?
It's Delivered Cold.
Delivered Cold, yeah.
But you can go to Richard's Regenerative.
Yeah, and it'll send you the link. Yeah. Go straight there. Because we talked about this, like, it can be hard to feed a family of 4 on regenerative food if you're buying like steaks and so forth. But it is more affordable if you're buying the grinds. Because I do a lot of like chilies and like I'll make my own burgers out of the ground beef and stuff like that. That does actually make it a lot more affordable. And we were talking about you may open up the possibility of buying like half a cow or an eighth of a cow or a quarter of a cow, something like that, like buying it in bulk. This is what I did recently, and bought it in bulk, bought a big chest freezer, keep it in there. Day before, take it out of the chest freezer, let it defrost, and then it's actually fun to like have different cuts that you have to kind of learn how to cook properly or well, or different like or do like different recipes or stuff. I'm a big like offal guy, so I like liver. So I'll often like shallow fry liver in butter, which I fucking love. A lot of people can't deal with it, but
I have an announcement after you're done.
Oh, you do? Okay. But yeah, but buying in bulk is one of the best ways to do it, and then finding the cuts that make sense for you and your family is another way to I think about it, because it can be very expensive if you do it in a very expensive way. So you have to find a way to do it responsibly.
Yes.
And again, we're not saying like you should be eating this every single meal every single day.
Right.
We're just saying like the more often you can get good nutrient dense foods into your family, into your kids, the healthier they're going to be, and the more energy they're going to have, good energy, and their immune systems are going to be better. They're going to grow up as healthier people.
Yeah, and they're going to have a calmer day. They're not going to have these crazy spikes. Yeah. So on the offal thing, we are releasing a grind with offal in it.
Love it.
Heart and liver. It'll be available online, I think, in like a week or 2.
Nice.
I think it's called the Country Blend.
Love it.
Yeah.
Because somebody else, is it pasture? What are they called? Pasture. I can't remember the name of it. There's a farm in Southern California that was doing. Oh, it's called Ancestral Blend, I think.
Yeah, we were gonna. So there's like a few different types of naming convention, and we don't want to copy anybody's name. Right. So I think Country Blend. I'm in.
I'm sold. I love it.
And so we'll do that just like we do online with the buy 5 get 6 combo. Because I agree, buying in bulk is way more efficient.
Yeah.
Our whole and half program has exploded since the pandemic. Because meat prices are just shooting through the roof.
Let's talk about that. Yeah. Why are meat prices shooting through the roof?
There's 2 things going on. One is animals are worth more than they've ever been since I've been doing this. The herd in America is smaller than it's ever been. And so animals are worth a lot of money because in America, there's not a lot of them. Right.
So a lot because a lot of farms have closed down, right? A lot of land gets more expensive, taxes get higher. 3, 4, 5 generation farms are like, we can't do this anymore. We can't afford to do it. So then they sell developers, whatever. Then the herd gets smaller.
A lot of older ranchers are cashing out because they're like, wow, cows are worth $4,000. I'm out, ripcord.
Right.
And then there goes those cows. They're not part of the big collective herd anymore. So that's one thing. Another thing is I am a ranch. I work with partner ranches up and down the state. And we don't own slaughter. We don't own processing. We don't own trucks. So every time that meat goes through any of those steps, there's a cost and a margin. And so since we don't have vertical integration like a JBS or a Tyson or a Giant, we can't push cost here and there. And no, the cost is the cost.
Yeah.
And so by the time it gets all the way to Texas, which is where our distribution is for our online meat sales, there's a lot of cost in there
Yeah.
that we have to make up for, not to mention the box and the frozen packs and the delivery, and delivering meat across the state is really expensive.
Yeah.
And so that's one factor. The other factor is the combination of the two. A lot of people aren't selling their animals, they're holding. And so you have to offer a decent amount of money to get people to, like, even my partners that I've worked with forever, I have to pay them what their animal's worth. I have to pay, like,
Right.
they're doing the regenerative thing. They're monitoring their soils. They're checking off all the boxes. They're not feeding them corn or soy. Like, I have to pay them for what these animals are worth. Right. And so right now it's kind of the crux of craziness with the animals are really expensive. Production is really expensive. Gas prices are still really high.
Yeah.
Uncertainty in what's going on in the world. Like, it's just kind of building up. And so that's a big reason why our bulk program, whole and half animals, is kind of exploding.
Yeah.
Because it's an economic, efficient way.
It's the way to do it.
To buy beef.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been, I do think I feel this responsibility, as a father. And I think, as a society, we've gotten away from cooking meals. Like,
Totally.
we've become very reliant on convenience, just grabbing something on the fly, picking something up for your kids, rather than just like cooking for your family.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that. I actually enjoy that process. Sometimes it is a little bit like stressful. Like, get home late and I've got to cook and stuff like that. But there's something in it, like preparing food for your family, then all sitting down together and eating it, and it being like a process and a thing.
Yeah.
There's something very important about that I think, we do need to get back to, because it's been going one way for a really long time, and it's kind of gotten to a point where it's, ridiculous. Like, families aren't sitting down together; they're just eating crap, and it's just, it's sad.
Yeah, the cooking at home has always been a thing in our family. Like, that's been a big deal since the very beginning. My aunt was an amazing cook. It was like an all-day thing. We'd come to the ranch and like we'd peek in there and we'd like, "You come here. You need to chop this onion." Like, so it's definitely been a thing growing up that cooking was a really big deal. But you're right, with all the quick food, even the quick healthy food.
Yeah.
Like, people are just brainlessly computer, phone, eating, even though it's like healthy. Like, maybe it's an organic bar, but you eat the bar, you don't even remember you ate it, and then you're like hungry for something else.
Yeah, totally.
So what I'm leading into is like, so right after I came here, I blew out my ACL, and it was like super, super sad.
No, I didn't do that, by the way. I didn't blow out her ACL.
Yeah, no. He did. It was not his fault. It was my fault.
She's playing real sports.
I know, my bad. Real sports at 40. My bad. So what happened? It was a series of events. So I came here. We did a workout. I almost barfed.
Yep.
Like, I literally snuck into the bathroom because I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. And I was like, I'm gonna barf. And then I realized I was out of shape. I tried to get in shape too fast. I blew out my ACL. That was kind of when things were taking off at the ranch with the schools program. There's this beautiful article, like, saying, like, it's a picture of all of us in it. It's like, yay, we're changing the world. And I looked at that picture and I was like, who's that person? Because I had gained weight. I was not eating the way I love to eat. Right. I wasn't even living the life that I promote in my business.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And I was like, that was the moment where I was like, okay, like, I need to really assess, like, what I'm eating, how I'm feeding my kids. Like, I need to be the person that I want to be. Yeah. And so I've been on this crazy health journey where now I'm eating almost like a pound of meat, not just necessarily beef, but everything, like a day. Yeah. I'm eating like whey protein. I'm working out 7 days a week. Like, I am now like the person that I was kind of saying I was. Yeah. Yeah. And then you kind of like thought you were until you looked at it like, I'm not actually the person I thought I was. Yeah. And it's like, it's very like vain to say that you saw it in a picture or whatever, but I was just like, it's hard because you live this life of like, we're farming and we're doing the right thing, but you can get stuck in a pattern in any job that you're in. Totally. And your health goes down the tubes. Totally. Yeah. And so what I'm trying to do on the meat side is we've done some nutrient density testing on our beef, and it's far and beyond over conventional, even beef? Grass-fed or corn. Do you hear that, guys? Yeah. So the omega-3 to 6 ratio is much narrower, and all the other nutrients are super high. So we're doing more testing because we, it's you can't just do testing of one. So we're testing from all of our ranches this year, and we're super excited to get all that data back and compile it awesome. And put it all together and be able to actually make some decisions
and have some proof.
And have some proof.
Communicate that proof to people and say, listen, people say this, people say that. Like nothing means anything unless you have some proof. Like here is the proof. Totally. Here is the nutrient density. Here is why you should be eating this stuff. Here is why you should not be promoting, being anti-meat in schools. Nothing is more important than getting good nutrients into your kids and your family. Like that is step one of a good, healthy body. Consuming good nutrients. Yeah. Forget about drugs, forget about pharmaceuticals, even supplements. Forget about that. Like supplements have a place, but it all starts with good food. If you don't start with good food, you're already operating at a loss. Like let's start with good food, and then everything else can come from there.
And there's certain companies, like we don't raise chicken. So I love Pasture Bird. Greener Pastures is who they have on, what's it called? Delivered Cold, where we sell ours. They're great. I am like obsessed with finding the right chicken, because like you go into the store and it's like, do any of these labels mean anything? I feel that way, and I know what the labels mean. Yeah. And so I'm like so crazy about what my kids are eating, and I'm like, which brand did you buy? Like in the store. Yeah, that's funny. Because I'm so nervous about like getting back in these habits again, because even like I said, even there's healthy junk food out there.
There is, but it's easy to get paralyzed by it all, and at a certain point you just have to, get the basics. I can't tell you how many times I've stood in a supermarket for like half an hour just thinking, I'm just going to get this. No, I'm not. I can't do that to myself. I'll just get that. No, it's not right. It's not right. Like you just like paralyze yourself with like, what's the absolute right thing to do? And a lot of the time there's going to be a compromise, but usually there is just, okay, but what's the better option? Maybe not what's the best option in the world, but what's the better option right now? What have I got to work with here? Yeah. So, I'm going to go for, even if it's not regenerative, I'm going to go for the grass-fed, grass-finished option. Right. Or even if it's not a, I love duck eggs.
Oh yeah, I'm not into it.
You're not into duck eggs?
No.
Okay, but if I can't find duck eggs, I'm going to find like the best kind of like pasture-raised chicken egg that I can find. Yeah. So there's always like a better version of the product, or maybe not the perfect option, but the better option to go for.
For proteins and dairy, that's what I focus on. Like buy the best we can buy.
Yeah.
If I'm buying it, and then everything else, I just kind of like I do the best I can.
We were talking about tallow, like tallow. What did you call it? Tallow with
the new bone broth.
Yeah, and everyone wants like the ultimate tallow.
Yeah.
But you were mentioning you can't make tallow in California.
No. For all of you out there, if you make tallow, give me a call.
Hit us up.
Because I have all this fat, and I want to make tallow.
What does it take to make tallow? First of all, you got the fat.
If I knew, I would tell you. What I do is I put it in my crock pot, and then I put salt and water, and then I melt it down. I let it solidify. You scrape the salt and the bits off the bottom, melt it again, salt and water. I do 2 rounds of that.
Right.
And then you have this delicious white tallow that I make creams with, and then I use it for cooking.
Is it something to do with some kind of like crazy law in California? It doesn't allow you to do it, or is it just?
I think the seed oils came in and tallow went out, and so the production of tallow went with it. Right. It's like it wasn't popular anymore. It wasn't efficient. It wasn't cheap. It wasn't the cheaper option anymore. Right. And so I think production just went to pockets of America where they still need it, use it, want it. We found a place, I think it's Indiana or something. I mean, it's so far away.
But now they're selling it for like $30 in A1. Like, I'm sure someone in California is going to be like, all right.
Yeah. Seriously. I know. If anyone wants to start up production, let me know. But yeah, things like that. So when we started this company, it was bone broth. That was the thing. Bone broth was the thing. And we were able to produce it. And our bone broth is delicious. Now that's not the thing anymore. Then it was organ meats. And then and now it's tallow. It's just funny how these trends are. Yeah. But I love cooking with tallow. I make my own. So what we do as a hack until we can find production, we sell 1 pound things of suet online. And so and then I have a recipe on our website on just how to make the tallow. Because you can just do it at home in a slow cooker.
Okay.
Like on a weekend.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lovely product. I love cooking with it. It's so good.
Yeah, I cook with it. Yeah.
It's the best. But
I get that there's actually a really good little store in Idlewild where I live. That I don't know where they get it from. They have a really good tallow in there. They're pretty good about like sourcing really good quality products. And yeah, I get some tallow there, and then you can find it at various kind of like farmers markets, and again, you can go to Year One or Whole Foods. Everyone has tallow now, but
there are some big companies that sell it, but it's just frustrating that like I guess I'm not big enough, and that's where all the costs, like, I can't get the best pricing on the packaging for my steaks or labels or anything because I'm not a big company.
Yeah, exactly.
And so like Epic makes a tallow, but like they're owned by General Mills, and so of course they can make tallow.
This is the other thing I want to talk to you about. It's funny how you have all these cute little brands that you think are like cute local little brands, but then when you actually dig deeper, they're actually owned by someone a lot bigger. Right. And that's a hard thing to resist, right? So let's say you get a massive company that want to come in and buy Richards for like $1 billion, whatever.
That billion. Let's do it. No, I'm just kidding.
But it's a hard thing. It's
I know. How do you say no to something?
How do you say no? But that's what happens so often. Like people start these like very responsible local companies with all the best ethics in the world. They have a great message and a great origin story, and then some big company comes in with mega bucks, buys them out, and you don't know they've been bought out at the time.
Right.
And then slowly things start to change over time, and you notice the quality's gone down a little bit, or the messaging's slightly changed, or a lot, and it's like, oh, this is now something different. I saw that poppy drink.
Oh.
Just got bought out by, I think, Pepsi. Bought it.
Makes sense.
But that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like you have these like new healthy drinks that come out, and it's owned by like a health conscious company, and then Pepsi, Coke.
And like, you can save $1 million by changing this one ingredient.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
It's tough because all of us that are selling a product like you're describing, we're barely making it. I mean, some people are like killing it, but killing it in the meat industry is a different killing it than, say, like a hedge fund.
Right. Yeah.
Totally. And so when people come in and want to buy a company like ours, it's very tempting. And so I know a few companies that have sold to bigger companies, and one of them has not. Their products are not as good as they used to be. But one of them, example, Pasturebird, I feel like because they got bought by Purdue, they were able to grow in a way that still had the vision. Like he was able to develop that into something that was going to bring the cost down and actually grow the program. So that is one example that I feel like they've done it really well.
Yeah.
Shout out to Paul at Pasturebird. But I feel like he was really good about being like, okay, guys, but let's do it this way. And so they actually moved all their production out of California to Georgia.
Right.
Because it was more cost effective.
Yeah.
But there are good stories, but a lot of them are not that way.
Right.
Because they buy these companies for inflated prices because they're like, look at us, we own this organic, delicious, local, amazing thing. And then they get in there and they're like, this is not efficient.
Yeah.
Like we need to cut this, we need to cut that. Yeah.
We got shareholders, we got make profit.
Like, shareholders. Yeah. So I've heard good and bad. Most of it's bad.
Yeah. Well, we've had Will Harris on the podcast before, and I know Will has a pretty, like you were saying before about, on your farm, you don't have you can't actually grind the product, and you have to ship all that out. But I think Will has everything now on the farm, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so jealous.
What would it take? Would you do that? And what would it take? Would it just take money? Is it just like?
Well, I'm not sure. California. So let me back up. We have been trying to put a building with a freezer and a cooler and a concrete floor into our property for a year, and it's still not done.
And it's a permitting issue.
It's not the permitting. It's just like the prices keep changing.
Right.
And the power. And we have to use the power company. No, we don't have to use power company. The trenching. That pipe's not available anymore. It's just like, it's a constant battle of whoopsie, we quoted you wrong, or whoopsie, we actually have to do it this way because of this regulation. It's been insane.
Mm.
So the idea of owning a like slaughter or production facility makes my head spin. Now, it would be actually really great to have secondary processing. I don't know if I'd want to own a slaughter, and I don't think we could do it just in our location.
Right.
But having a secondary processing place where we could do grinds, we could do tallow, we could do, sauces, we could do kind of that secondary stuff. That would be amazing.
But if we're saying like one of the big problems about getting like good quality meat to families is the distribution and all the processes you have to go through. If somehow there was a program whereby I'm just in La La Land here, where the government subsidized the building of those kind of facilities on your kind of farm, and they were serious about it, like we're going to help these regenerative farms build these kind of facilities so that we can get more affordable distribution to the communities around them.
Right.
That would make all the sense in the world, right?
Right.
And like. Everything's expensive, we know, but relatively speaking, the cost of that is far less than the cost of healthcare. Like,
Yeah. No, so, I am with you.
Because I think people want to and would buy, products like this, and they want to do it, but the objection is always going to be cost. Like, it's just hard for a lot of families to afford to do it. So we have to find a way to bring down the cost, and that would seem like a logical way to be able to do it if you truly cared about it. Like if you really want to do it, shout out to RFK, let's do it. Then I feel like that would be the move.
I'm with you. When our animals leave our ranch, they go to slaughter 6 hours away. Then they go to the Bay Area. Then they go to another distribution drop, and then they get distributed across California in the sprouts markets. I mean, they probably cover 2,000 miles.
Look, think about the gas. Think about the energy cost. Yeah,
it's insane. So when we do on-farm slaughter and sell locally to families, that is the most direct.
Right.
We support the local butcher shop that's down in Linda, California. It's like 30 minutes from us. Country Butcher. Shouts out to them. They're wonderful. But that's how we do it off the farm. It's the greatest, simplest model. If I could grow that model off of each of the ranches and it's also a supplementary model for each of the ranches we buy from. So it's our ranch, my cousin's ranch, a good friend, Spencer, and then down here in Lompoc. Those are kind of our core ones.
Right.
If we could do a whole animal distribution off of each of those ranches to the local communities down there, it'd be amazing. And that would be like step one. Step two would be something like I was saying, if I could do secondary processing at my property. If I harvest an animal on my property, it's not USDA approved. There's no such thing as on-farm
because it has to go to the factory that they want it to go to? Or?
It has to go to a USDA inspected,
blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yet the families I'm selling to don't care that we're doing it with
I don't
our
care
guy.
Yeah. Come a little bit closer.
Okay.
So let's talk about a price per. So right now we can do like we were talking about this earlier. Like if you buy if you buy in bulk, you can basically get regenerative grass-fed beef at $10 a pound.
Yeah, it's like $10 to $10.50.
And if we had the on-site development, what could we get that down to?
That's a great question. If I had someone come in and do all the cutting, I mean, maybe it would come down like $1, but for a whole animal, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
because a whole animal is billed at the harvest weight, so it'd be like almost $1,000. It would save you.
Yeah.
So it's just like every time someone touches it, it adds like $1.
Yeah.
Like it's like
at least
label
$1, right?
$1. Yeah. Oh, it goes in a box. Oh, something in the very, very beginning when we started distributing ourselves is we weren't thinking about the haul from the harvest to the cold storage facility, because then it would go to processing after that. So there's a haul for the animals to the processing, then there's a cold storage haul to the warehouse, and then there's another haul to the processor.
Right.
So what we've actually done this is a good segue into the technology company we're starting.
Right.
So we have been monitoring all of this, all these costs from the farm to the ranch to the warehouse to the processing, the labeling, distribution. we've been monitoring it all ourselves in our own program that we built through Salesforce. And now we're selling it to other companies so that they can manage their cost. It's called Harvest Path. And it's Harvest Path AI or harvestpath.co online, and you can check it out. But the idea is that we're going to monitor the cost from the soil all the way to the customer. There are lots of systems that do each thing. There's VistaTrack. There's like Pasture
But yours
Map.
does everything.
Ours does all the things.
Wow.
And so we are in the first launch. Now, let me say, ours does all the things. It will do all the things. Right now, it's like first launch is this.
Right.
So right now, the animal input is done. The second phase of processing is done. Distribution will be next. But we built this because we couldn't manage it in spreadsheets. Like, I mean, you can, and people
it's just
are.
Very difficult, yeah.
It's very difficult.
And time consuming.
So time consuming. So now I have an animal input calculator. So like when I'm buying animals, I'm like on the phone going, do. Okay, that works. Like, we're going to order them. Like, instead of opening up a spreadsheet and then, oh, where's my most current spreadsheet? And what did I buy last year from them? And how many it's all right there. And so we built this because we want other people to have this tool.
Yeah,
and great. I was telling you earlier, sometimes you get to the very end of the year or even to the end of a harvest and you're like, oh, the ribeyes were $70 a pound. I was only charging X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Because you didn't factor in that extra little haul or the back label and not the front label. Like, and so we're trying to develop this system to bring in all the factors.
Yeah.
So that you can really see your true cost at every stage.
And that's live now, or
it's live now. We are taking customers on, like beta customers.
Okay.
And the website is live, so you can check it out.
Okay, great. I'm going to tell my Sage Mountain, the guys close to where I live, I'm going to tell them about that.
Yeah, it's really cool. We're really excited, but it's like, oh, we're just going to run a technology company just on top of everything else. It's no big deal.
Just add a little bit more
You
stuff.
know how that is, right?
I talk about it all the time. It's like every time you kind of like just get our head above the water, it's like we do something else that just sends us right back down again.
It's like you have these spare minutes. You're like, what do I do with the spare minutes? Start another company.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
But I think it's good to diversify like that because they're almost like two very separate. I mean, they're connected, but it's two very separate industries. Really.
That's been interesting. So, like, we took on investors, and it's been like a very different process than dealing with ag. And then you're crossing over ag and tech, and a lot of times those people don't understand the other side. Yeah. And so that's been a really interesting part of doing that.
But I think if things are going to move forward, then those lines have to be broken down like that. You have to have that communication.
Totally.
You can't have two separate worlds because the future, we're not going to deny technology or it's a thing.
It's coming.
Technology's here. AI is here. You've got to find a way to integrate it. Otherwise, that's the thing with, I think, regenerative farming and traditional farming practice in general is, it's an ancient practice, but we have to find a way to modernize it, not in terms of the practice itself, but in the way that it's distributed, marketed, and advertised, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because without that, no one's going to know about it. So no one's going to get it. So you
have the old timer farmers like my dad, who barely uses email.
Right.
And then you have someone like me that's like on the phone all the time. So you need to find
a
way. Those people need to learn how to manage property quickly.
Yes.
Like I need to be able to manage the ranch when I'm at a soccer game.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah.
My life
That's the reality of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. My life is ranch, soccer tournaments, horse competitions, back at the house, like just running around everywhere and running companies. And unfortunately, like I would love to say the pastoral life of living on the land and like you sell everything off of a cute little store. Like
you think it's idyllic like that. Yeah.
Like Will is so lucky that he has everything there and like people can come to him.
Right.
He can distribute from there.
Right.
And like Hickory Nut Gap is very similar. They're in South Carolina. They're lovely. There's these anomalies of ranches and properties that can pull off these kind of situations.
Right.
Ours just isn't like that.
Right.
And maybe it could be in the future, but it just isn't. And
right.
a lot of people own property or they're inheriting it from the family and they're overwhelmed because they've had a desk job and now they're like, what do I do?
No
with this
idea.
farm?
Yeah.
So we're trying to bridge that gap of like, you can manage your property, you can manage your animals, and you can also like make it to your kid's soccer game.
That's great. that makes you pretty unique, I think.
I would think so, but you never know. Like, and if I'm not unique, that's fine. There needs to be more of us that. What I always say is like telling people that farming and ranching is sundown to sunup. Who is that recruiting? That's not recruiting the next generation. Like, it's sundown, sunup, you're going to work your ass off and there's no margin. And you're like, I wonder why people aren't doing farming and ranching. It's so weird.
Right.
And so I'm trying to figure out a way, like, how do you make money? How do you live a life? How do you do 8 hours a day? Like, we have to figure this out.
You have to.
It's
well,
so
otherwise, more and more ranches will close. All beef production will go to Argentina. It will just be about importing beef from Argentina. Australia. Ranches that have been in the US, for generations, tragically will just be bought up by developers and they'll grow soy or whatever they want to grow.
Yeah.
Like, it's sad.
It's so sad.
This is why I love the Yellowstone kind of like story from start to finish. Because the real story for me is the story of ranching. Like, I love how it starts off with like, this is how the ranches started. This is like the trials and tribulations they go through to exist and survive through all the turmoil of the ages. And this is where we're at right now. And it's like, if we don't do something, like, it's a sad, sad story. Yeah. So it's
crazy. It's something that I did not factor in when I was like, I'm going to take over the ranch. It's going to be great. And we're going to live this great pastoral life. And I'm going to have organic milk and all the things. I didn't realize how connected farming and ranching is with the global economy.
Right.
Like, when prices go down and this commodity affects that commodity, affects your water rights. Like, I didn't factor that in because it's such a teeny tiny town.
Right.
And I'm such a teeny tiny producer compared to like the big guys. But you're directly affected, like oil prices, like all the things. It gets funneled to the farmers and ranchers quickly.
100%.
It's crazy. Yeah. Like, I just didn't factor that in. And now I feel like I have a better education on like how things work globally than I did when I got in there, when I was, wedding and portrait photographer, thinking I was going to save the world with regenerative farming.
Right.
And now I'm like, oh, it's not just regenerative farming. It's your community. It's your greater community. It's your state. It's all these things.
All the insane regulations that go with it. Did you watch Clarkson's Farm, by the way?
No. Do I need to?
Guys, watch Clarkson's Farm. So Clarkson's Farm, it's a UK show.
Okay.
Jeremy Clarkson, who's a famous British like TV presenter, had a very, very big show called Top Gear, and then decided to start a farm. Bought a farm in Oxfordshire. I think it's in Oxfordshire. Had no idea about farming. This is the whole show. Like, he buys a farm, hasn't got a fucking clue what he's doing. Brings in some people to help him. Like, so the whole story is like what it takes to run a farm and the insane regulations that you have to go through, and also, like you were saying, what people don't understand is like the cost of stuff. Now, this is not a regenerative farm, so he's talking about the cost of pesticides and all that. Like, and as the cost of pesticides goes up, it's like, well, this isn't even like affordable anymore. This isn't sustainable. So, and gas prices and all that. And then he tries to open this this farm shop on his property, and then they come in and say he can't do the farm shop, and then he tries to open this like restaurant on the property, and then they say he can't do the restaurant. So all these things happen, and everyone's watching and saying, what is happening? We talked about this earlier. It's like, if you own land and you want to do something on your own land and your own property, like there should be minimal like regulations on that if it's your land and your property.
Right.
But people were watching this and being like, this is fucking absurd, because people don't really understand that this is happening. Yeah. And then there's this big like kick up fuss. And anyway, the upshot was he won the case. Clarkson won the case, and now he has the shop and he has the restaurant, I believe. So it's an interesting thing, and I think sometimes it's going to take stuff like that to bring it into the public eye for people to really understand what's happening. Like you were saying about the marriage of tech and regenerative farming. Like, I almost feel like that has to happen in some fashion just to get eyes on people, to understand, people to come up with solutions, people to help in the in the growth of that industry. Yeah. And you can't just like rely on the old way. This is the way we did it back then. This is the way we keep it. It's just not going to work. Now, you can stay true to your principles, I think, and of course the practice of regenerative farming, but finding new and interesting ways to grow that and get it in the public domain and get people to care about it. Like that's a new we've done this, we've been doing the social media thing for a while and stuff like this, like podcasts and anything that brings it to the public attention and just says, look, this isn't right. Like, this is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You can see objectively that this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do something about it as a culture and as a society.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really has to happen. Like, the practice is one thing, but then
the practice is one
thing.
Yeah. People focus so hard on this word. Like, they're like, regenerative.
Right.
And it's like, regenerative is one piece of the huge puzzle.
Yes.
So what we practice is holistic management. And so holistic management is like, it's your community, it's your practices, it's your animals, it's your land, it's your family. It's how does everything work together?
Right.
Because it's not just those animals I have on the delicious grass that's, producing more and more grass every year and everything's great. Yay. How do we get it to market? How do we get people to care? Like, how do we get people to understand this word that no one can say? Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Totally.
It's like, it's so, and it's hard because everyone's like, just go on social media. Right. And I'm like, the people that are really successful on social media either are lucky and had a viral moment, or they do that all the time. Like, you honestly do a very good job knowing with all the things you have going on. But
and I have like 5 followers, so it's
at least
never ending.
At least. But yeah, it's hard because people think the Joel Salatins of the world, the Will Harris's, they have such good marketing that shows what they do. But that's just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
It's like, you still got to get it to someone's plate.
Right.
And there's so many other steps in between, and you have to make them all make sense.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it has to make money. For any business survivor, has to make money. It's the same thing with us in gyms. It's like, I can build like the best gyms in the world with the best equipment and have all these things, and in the end, if it doesn't make money, it's going to fall apart.
I know.
So there's always that marriage between, this is what I want to do, these are my principles, this is what I believe in.
Yeah.
But then how do I actually make it make any financial sense?
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of it.
Yeah. Like, and sometimes you have to make decisions that you don't want to make.
Right.
Because of that exact reason.
Yeah.
Like we did when we had to like reduce down our staff and like kind of start over and go this distributor model, because we just had to simplify. Yeah. Just hands in too many things.
Yeah. And it's actually, interestingly, that's a problem that we found ourselves in, because the bigger things get, the more complicated they get, the more employees you have, the bigger your salaries. And then you get to a point where you're like, it just gets so blown up that you're like, oh my God, we just can't afford to do this anymore. We've got to simplify. We've got to simplify. Streamline. You've got to make everything, every individual part of the business has to make sense on its own for the overall thing to make sense.
Totally.
So you almost have to like deconstruct it like you did. And be like, okay, we're taking this right back to the beginning.
Yeah.
How do we rebuild this thing in a way that makes sense?
Yeah. And that's what we had to do because it was getting out of control. I think part of it was the success that we had during the pandemic when people finally sought us out.
Yeah, and we're cooking at home, I think.
Yes.
I think it made a difference.
And we sold out online immediately, and when we restocked and we sold out again. I mean, it was for all of us that sell online and sell locally and do CSAs and everything, it was like an amazing time frame. And then it all imploded. So we all grew our stocks, we all grew our warehouses, we all grew because we finally got the sales that we needed because people were buying locally because we couldn't get the imports for a while.
Right.
And so a lot of business, like like Stemple Creek, a couple others are like the only grass feds left in California. Right. Like one of the biggest, amazing pastured pork producers, it doesn't exist anymore. Like we've watched these companies just
because it's cheaper to import.
It's so much cheaper to import.
Yeah. So with that in mind, this is kind of a controversial thing, guys. So I don't want to get deep into this, but this is the whole tariff thing, right? And it's like painful as it is for a lot of businesses, unless you do something like that, you're just going to continue to import cheaper products with working practices that you would definitely not tolerate in this country, but because it's having a different country, you don't care. But unless you do something like that, is it going to be possible for businesses here to grow? Like this is exactly what we're talking about, right? It's like farms close because people can get cheaper meat if they import it from Australia, wherever they want to import it from. Yeah. So if you want to help small farmers grow, then you have to make their product more attractive.
Right.
And That's
and make
just one way
the
to do it,
outside
right?
product less attractive.
Right.
And at the
Exactly.
very least, label it of what
Correctly
it is.
and what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all the big chains, they buy from outside of America.
Yes.
And
this is another thing that I don't
yeah.
think people actually understand what they're buying. You know, because like you said, they label it all nice and they say nice
Mhm.
words and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But when you actually look behind that,
Mhm.
they're importing it from somewhere else, and somewhere that you would not.
All the grass fed is mostly Australia and Uruguay.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's like.
And I currently cannot compete with those prices.
Yeah.
And so I get in, debates with companies that are like, well, we can get it the same thing from over here. And it's like, is it the same thing?
Yeah, is it the same
really?
thing? Yeah.
It's not the same thing. Show me it's the same thing. It's going on a shipping container, then it's going to the middle of America, then it's getting processed, then it's getting distributed. Like,
right.
Is it the same thing?
Yeah.
So it's frustrating. We have a saying that if you only buy Costco meat, in the end, all you're going to have is Costco meat.
That's it. It's true.
Because if you don't support the locals, they're all going to disappear.
They're all going to disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's good to just know the farmer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know you.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy food from you.
Yeah.
I know the guys in Sage Mountain. Like,
mm-hmm.
I talk to them personally.
Right.
I know where they're growing I know where their cows are. I can go meet the cows if I want.
Totally. Hello, cows.
I'm going to buy food from them.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Just support the people that you can, and know that it's hard for me to talk expense because I prioritize, like I said, my proteins and my dairies mainly. I will buy the best I can buy because those are the core of what we eat.
Yeah.
And then everything else is kind of filler, the veggies and the carbs.
What we're saying is that's where we're getting most of our nutrients from. Like our nutrient dense foods are in that world.
Right.
So we're going to prioritize that.
So that's what I do. And so it's hard for me to have the it's too expensive debate with someone because I'm like, okay, if you're going to eat a less quality something or you're going to eat more carbohydrates because they're cheaper, you're going to pay for it later.
Yeah.
And I know it's not like a price that you can fathom because it's not on the product.
Yeah.
But it's in addiction to, sugars and sweets. It's in your, medications they're going to be on later.
Right.
And so it's hard for people to have the concept of pay for good quality stuff now. So I don't have to pay for it later.
Yeah.
And then you bring in the exercise factor and people's eyes glaze over and then it's over. The conversation's over and it's like,
I know.
No, it's holistic. It's all
it's like anything. Like we want results and we want them now.
Oh my God.
So we don't think long term, we just think short term. So we buy stimulants and things that give us an immediate effect rather than thinking, okay, but if I eat this now, how am I going to feel in 10 years?
Yeah. I know. And that's a hard concept.
Totally.
For anyone to get, even myself who knows deep down that that's a core issue with people. And
it's hard to get young people to care about it. I think we all get to an age where we really start to care about this stuff because we really like to think about longevity and how much longer we got on the planet and what do we want to do with that time and I want to be around for a long time. When you're in your 20s, you don't think like that. No. So I think part of the thing and part of the tech thing will be how do you get young people to care about this kind of stuff because the young people are the people that can really, really drive this thing.
Totally.
So if we can get that generation, you got to go on TikTok or something.
Which is why saying sun up, sun down, no margin. Why are we saying that? Stop saying that.
Yeah,
that is not getting young people
You got to find a way
excited.
to communicate to the young people. You got to get Kim Kardashian to open a regenerative farm.
Oh my God, wouldn't that be amazing? I'll help her.
What was that show back in the day? Wasn't there a show with the?
There was Paris Hilton.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called.
But yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
They did that.
You got to get some eyes on.
The Universal Day.
So what's next?
So what we're doing is we have our software company, Harvest Path. So we'll be touring.
Harvest Path, check that out.
Yeah, we'll be touring around and selling that and getting people onboarded. And we're really excited because it's helped us so much and we want to help all the other smaller producers like us grow their business in a sustainable way that they know they're making money. They know how much their costs are. Let's do this together. And then also we are trying to grow our online sales because we just started with a small amount of products. It's richardsregenerative.com, and then you click on buy now, and that takes you to our 3PL. The reason why we did that is because in California, it's very expensive to have employees. and we wanted to try and keep our online sales costs down as much as possible. So
Yeah.
we're doing it through this company.
Which is called
It's Delivered Cold.
Delivered Cold.
And they have lots of other meat products on there. They have bison,
Yeah, they have a ton of stuff,
they
yeah.
have chicken, they have delicious ice cream.
Oh yeah.
They have all, so it's everything frozen. Their model is like, it's basically a box that would fill a normal freezer.
Right.
So like fill your freezer with all of our products.
Okay, great.
That's
awesome.
That's their thing.
Yeah.
So we're growing that. And then I'm kind of in slow grow mode when it comes to the meat company. Like, we want to grow, obviously, but we are not bigger, stronger, faster mode right now.
Right.
We are like, we want to solidify our customers. We love our customer sprouts.
Yeah.
We want to keep that going. We want to grow that.
Yeah.
And we want to keep our schools program going.
Yeah, that's important.
And so I want to build a sustainable business with, these lumps of growth. When they happen, they happen. But the try to get giant really fast grow mode, we're not doing that right now.
No.
We're just like in sustain mode. We want to get a little bit bigger, but not at the cost of our health and our, sanity, basically.
And how long do you think it will take to get kind of like the bigger cut, like the half cow, quarter cow, eighth cow?
We have that program going on now.
That's going on now.
Yeah,
okay.
So it's small. So we do sell whole and half. We also sell whole and half pigs. We do pastured pigs.
But is that like a pickup thing? Like you have to be close to you to get it?
You would have to be.
It's the shipping that's difficult with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So shipping whole pig does not pencil down to
No,
LA.
it doesn't. Yeah.
Unless you happen to be going to Northern California.
Right.
And then you can go get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then in Southern California, we have a lease that we do the whole and half program off of as well.
Okay.
That's the one in Longpoint.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a little closer.
Yeah, so check that out, guys. That's definitely worth doing.
Yeah.
And even if not, Carrie's farm, try and find your local farm.
Totally.
Go and speak to that farmer. See if you can get it from them.
Yeah.
It just makes such a huge difference.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a massive fan, as you know.
Me too. We didn't even talk about the fact that you have 4 locations.
I talked about that. I
Crazy,
talked about that enough on the podcast. Everyone knows about
crazy entrepreneur.
But yeah, I'm a mega fan, and I think what you do is so courageous and so brave and so important. Especially with the kid stuff, like to me, it's just such a no-brainer, and it just frustrates me that it doesn't happen more. So I'm really pumped that you're doing that for schools, and I hope that continues to grow. And hope
Me too.
my kid's school gets that at some point. And I will, continue to do everything I can from my side to promote this kind of stuff and push you guys. And hope you can come back again soon.
Yes.
And we'll catch up again. And great to see you in such good shape. You did a workout before the podcast.
Yeah.
And Carrie's in great shape. She's looking great. She's had a surgery, obviously, on the ACL, but
and I didn't almost barf.
Didn't almost barf. Just went straight through. We had a great time, and it's great to just spend some time with you again.
You too.
I'm glad.
Thank you so much.
We made it through. We made it this far.
I know.
We
My God, made it 3 more years.
Yeah. Good to see you again. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure you check out richardsregenerativefarm.com, right? richardsregenerative.com.
It's just richardsregenerative.com.
richardsregenerative.com. You can find the links to all the stuff on there. Make sure you check out that new software company. If you're in the industry, it's going to be super helpful for you guys. Buy local. Buy from your farm. Meat, eggs, dairy, whatever it is, vegetables. Get it from your local farm. Stop buying from the big chain supermarkets that don't give a fuck, basically. That's what it comes down to. All right, guys. Until next time, take care and come check us out. Obviously, the 4 locations now in Echo Park, Palm Springs, Idlewild, Redondo Beach. Love to have you. Love to see you. Always good to have new faces there. So, catch you in the gym. And until next time, take care. See ya.